morning. I am Brandon Sieper, Chairman of the Sanford Chamber Board of Directors and Strategic Account Manager for Advent Health Centricare. Welcome to our 2021 State of the Cities Breakfast. This year, we are joined by mayors from Sanford and its contiguous communities, all within the regional footprint of our business and community efforts. Thank you all for joining us today and for your support of our chamber. At this time, I would like to ask Brady Lazard, Vice Chairman of the Sanford Chamber Board of Directors and Vice President of CPH, Inc., to act as today's moderator. Thank you.
That's a fact. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I will start by saying I was given about a 62-page script for today's event, and anyone that knows me knows that I've spent the last week preparing for this event, so it will be seamless. Suzanne is laughing. I don't know what that's all about. But first of all, I'd like to welcome the mayors, and I don't see Mayor Woodruff yet. He lives the furthest away, so he's going to be late, I suppose. But thank you very much for taking the time to be here. It's greatly appreciated. We're all excited to hear everything you all have to say today. We'd also like to welcome Commissioner Lee Constantine, who is notoriously late, and I promise you, when he gets here, he will eat and leave early. Guaranteed. Let's start with an invocation. You're still allowed to do that in the great city of Sanford. Our pastor, Kenneth Clark from Action Church, and we know your church kind of had a major loss, so we're with you on that, but we'd like to turn it over to Pastor Clark for the invocation.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this morning, beautiful Florida morning. God, I pray that you would be with us today as we talk about our communities. God, give us wisdom, give us insight, give us clarity. God, we just thank you for what you're doing in all of our cities. There's some crazy things happening, but there's some great things happening as well. So God, I just pray that you would be with us this morning as we get better. God, I bless our mayors, our commissioners, all the leaders in the room that drive our communities. God, we're grateful for the place that we get to call home. It's in your name we pray, and everybody said, Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. And is that Kenneth Bentley?
Yeah.
I cannot tell with the mask, but ladies and gentlemen, 17 years straight, Sanford's sharpest dressed man, Mr. Kenneth Bentley. Love it. I didn't know you were going to be here. Okay. And before we get started, I'd like to take a brief moment to thank some of our sponsors. We have the City of Sanford here, Central Florida Zoo. I mean, what a beautiful place. They went through a very tough time during the pandemic, so any opportunity you have to get out here and support them would be greatly appreciated. CPH Inc., my company, is also involved here, but we'd also like to thank some of our bronze sponsors. We've got All About Storage, FPL, Snelling Staffing Services, which is formerly Link Staffing. Just ask Chris Stubbs, he'll bend your ear about it for about 30 minutes. We've got One Source Branding. We've got the fine folks from Orlando Sanford International, our new president of the airport, who I'm sure if you haven't gotten to meet him, please take the time. He hails from California and is a new homeowner in our community, so welcome. Also, Professional Real Estate and Resolute Tissue. The one sponsor I didn't mention is quite possibly one of the finest business people we have in Seminole County, let alone Sanford. I met this individual. I walk into his restaurant. This is probably his first or second day of operating. Walk into the restaurant, the place is empty. Oh, I don't know what's going on here. Walk into the place, and it's completely empty. He's in what I thought was a terrible location, and he'll tell you, he's in that location because he got a great deal on rent. Walk in, he's got beautiful staff, unbelievable service. I fell in love that day with a meatball parm that I've had a crazy relationship with ever since. But I will tell you, anytime you're out in the community and the community needs something, I mean, the Kenneth, you're familiar with the group that Commissioner Kerry Wiggins does, the Boys to Men group. You've got Ian over at Chianti's supplying food. This event, so I will say this, what a phenomenal opportunity. So I go in there, place is empty, beautiful service, awesome sandwich. I come back about a week later thinking, I'll be a big shot. I was one of his first customers. I bring about 10 people, I think, oh man, this will be a party of 10. I'll be a big shot. He's already got to wait for a lunch. So his business has grown phenomenally. I've been an awesome, I believe Camille's here. He's got a gal over at the Longwood store, sometimes in Sanford, but if you ever have the opportunity, Ian and his staff are phenomenal. Top shelf. Go see him at Chianti's. We're going to have his breakfast today, so thank you to you and your staff. And with that, no problem. With that, we would like to ask Andrew Thomas from the city of Sanford to come up and join us in the pledge. We're going to have the posting of the colors, I believe. Kim?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Forward. March. Left. 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 Right. Left. 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 Right. Left. Mark time. Mark. Left. Color guard. Halt. Left. Face. Rocker. Face. Present. On.
If we may start, good morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. On. Left. Proper. Face. Rocker. Place. Left. Face. Forward. March. Left. 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 Right. Left. Left.
Thank you. You may be seated.
At this point, you might see a white band that's been placed at everyone's seat here. This is a memorial to a fine mayor, Jeff Triplett, who was acting as the president of the chamber when he met an untimely death after a very short battle with cancer. So this is a lung cancer. We've all had friends, family, loved ones who have been touched by cancer. So these were anonymously donated. I know everybody doesn't wear these, but some people hang them on their mirror. Some people pass them along to a friend. But just want to let Jeff know we were thinking of him. And actually, that's probably a good time to and I did do a tiny bit of prep for tonight. One of my favorite quotes was ironically one of Jeff's favorite quotes. Jeff was not near as well read as I was. Anyway, I won't go into that. But, so Teddy Roosevelt, this is about 121 years ago. Teddy Roosevelt's torn around. Teddy Roosevelt, by the way, Catherine, if you don't remember, is the good President Roosevelt. So he's traveling around the world about 121 years ago, and Europe has always been a little arrogant when it comes to the United States. Who would have known a few short years later, after Teddy's trip through Europe, they would fall into World War I, later World War II. I mean, they destroyed themselves. But so Teddy wasn't over there to teach them a lesson. He was over there just touring. And he had a speech that was called The Arena that is absolutely phenomenal. It's really telling. We've got 3 mayors here, and if Woodruff doesn't show up, I will stage a coup.
Or fill in.
Or fill in, right? But Teddy Roosevelt took a lot of heat. I mean, he was quite a, well, let's put it this way, he's on Mount Rushmore, he accomplished quite a bit. But he took a lot of heat, and most politicians do. I don't think there's anyone that you're going to hear from today that hasn't taken heat. So Teddy Roosevelt's given this speech and later claimed it was off the cuff. I doubt it, but that was Teddy, right? And he wore glasses too, so these are actually fake. I don't need them. Makes me look intellectual. But kind of in honor of Jeff, he actually had this on his wall in the office. So it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or how the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly, who knows the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, and who at the best knows, in the end, the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory or defeat. I mean, that's wow. So I want to thank our public servants. I want to thank anyone who actually is willing to get in the arena. Your arena may be different. Your arena may be in business. Your arena may be in the classroom. But get in the arena. I mean, for God's sake, sitting on the sidelines or in the stands as a critic is great on a Friday night for a football game or something. But get in the arena. So I'll leave you with that. Please enjoy your breakfast, and we will be back shortly. Brandon and Kim are running the show, but we're going to have our mayors and everyone enjoy their breakfast. We'll get started with the program. I will tell you this as you're getting your food served. I'm supposed to thank people for coming to an event like this, but I'd rather kind of turn it and say you're welcome, because we've got 3, again, I'm pointing out Mayor Woodruff is not yet here. We've got some public servants that are here to share their time, talent, and treasures. $125 a table. I told Kim she could have gotten $125 a head. So welcome, enjoy, and look forward to a program. I promise you this. I've been to a million of these. They're usually overscripted and too long. Neither will be the case today. So enjoy your breakfast. We're going to get out early, but we're going to have some fun.
I love your dress. Thank you. I love yours too.
Get the program started. I'm seeing Kim say Kim is running a tight ship here. Little known fact about Kim is she was a roadie for the band Poison, so she really keeps everybody right. Keeps everybody on schedule and on stage at the right time. Couple folks I should have introduced. We have our chairman, Mr. Lee Constantine, who was able to join us. Lee, welcome. Lee, your career will go down, and I mean this in all sincerity, as one of the biggest champions for the natural, Seminole, Florida's natural choice. I get it, but you really have been a champion on that front, so we appreciate it. We've got the host of or the city manager of our host city, Mr. Norton Bonaparte. And at his table, we have a lady that runs a small little restaurant you may have heard of, the Willow Tree. We got I'm going to just fly through just a couple people that really I should have mentioned. We got more of the board from the Airport Authority, and Robbie, of course, is the one that came down and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Are you not going to introduce me?" Robbie Robertson. I will tell you this interesting fact about Robbie Robertson. He is the king of propane in Central Florida. He is responsible for grilling more hamburgers and steaks, true or false? Robbie. He's no longer the king, actually. His son's taking it over. Profits are soaring. I mean, it's pretty fun to watch the next generation taking over Robbie's business. We've also got Miss Elizabeth from the airport here. She runs the private side of the airport in conjunction with the airport authority. Great to see her. We've got Butch Bundy, former mayor of Longwood. I could go through, I'm telling you, there are some great folks in this audience. We've actually got Dr. Tina Calderon from the school board. One of the biggest things about Seminole County is our school. She's had a real easy couple of weeks, right? So with that, we're going to bring the mayors up if they would, and I believe there's a name tag here. They're going to actually be sharing the mic, but as they're coming up, we'll tell you kind of the format. Again, we threw Kim's script out, so...
Oh, great.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You'll have to turn your mic on.
Now, one thing I do know that's going to come up, oh, another person I forgot to introduce, and how this happened is beyond me. You guys remember the sitcom Charles in Charge back in the 80s? Well, we've got Mr. Charles Davis here, who is involved in everything, but I will tell you, he is no Scott Baio, and he is not in charge. So, but I will tell you this, Charles is involved in just about everything, including this zoo. I mean, anytime he calls me, I know he's going to say two words that scare me. Latin, pro bono. So, I mean, 2 days ago, I'm on the football field over at Seminole High School. Next day, I'm in an orphanage. Next day, we're doing a sign for the zoo. And again, pro bono, which, you know, Daniel, you have to do that as part of your profession. But anyway, I wanted to say hi to Charles Davis. And lastly, second best hair in Seminole County, Mr. Bob Horian. This guy made either a bazillion or a gazillion, I'm not sure which, in the manufacturing business, has been developing real estate ever since. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to our panel. If we can get one round of applause so we don't have to clap between each other. Okay. First on the agenda is a gentleman I don't really know well, so I am going to have to refer to my notes. He's not lived in Central Florida long, which is, he got lost on the way here, you know, finding his way around. But we've got Mayor Art Woodruff, and we can, a round of applause as we introduce these folks. So I'll tell you a little bit about Art. We're going to hear a lot more about him, hopefully, during this program. Sanford Proud. Now, I coined that phrase. I should have trademarked it when I was mayor. Sanford Proud since 1877, right? It's pretty cool. And Sanford wasn't as cool back then. We had some struggles, but new leadership kind of mended those through. So this is a sixth generation, I think, Art. Sixth generation Florida resident, Sanford resident, born and raised here. Went off to UNC for 4 years, I guess. University of North Carolina. Exactly, as opposed to 5. 4.5, okay. Yeah. We're taping this, so he's going to actually be honest today. He now teaches at Oviedo High School, physics, science, as he likes to say, some of the brightest kids in Seminole County go through his classroom. And Catherine Townsend, who's sitting at my table, was just saying that all of her friends say you're a great teacher, and I mean that sincerely. He's married to Patty. They've got 2 kids, Daniel and Rachel. We were neighbors when they were this tall. They're no longer this tall. Daniel's probably taller than Art, actually. Art was first elected in 2001 as a city commissioner. He was elected in District 1, which is, to put it in perspective for anyone not from Sanford, kind of the historic district, and in my opinion, one of the greatest neighborhoods in Sanford, Mayfair. Not the golf course Mayfair, but the Mayfair that's down on the lakefront. He recently became mayor. Mayor Jeff Triplett resigned. Art was elected by the city commission to serve the remainder of that term. It's yet to be known if he's running for re-election, and you don't have to make that announcement today. Okay. Well, I remember when I announced I wasn't running, 40 days and 40 nights of people camped out my yard, 4 more years, 4 more years. Or I vaguely remember something like that. One of Art's passions is a project that we shared a passion for. Art actually got it done, I would say, which is Hopper Academy, and I'm going to ask you about that in a little bit. So clear your thoughts on that front. Next, we have from one of the finest cities in Florida, and I mean, this is not Brady speaking, this is media, this is realtors like Lisa Finnerty here, they'll tell you. Lake Mary, one of the most desired places in the country, really, that everybody wants to live in Florida now. So, city of Lake Mary, we've got David Mueller. He's also got deep roots, 3 generations. We are going to get you an opportunity to talk about the 6th generation. What? Okay, here's a little thing about Mayor Mueller that I found out. 1, he was in the Army, so we share that, so go Army. 2, he matriculated at the University of Georgia, which is kind of a little fact. You know judges. I would have that expunged from my record. But he has served this community very well, currently serves in a capacity out at UCF, and I'm going to have him explain in his opening. He's been a tireless advocate for this community. I will tell you, he's been in office so long, I believe he was originally sworn in by President Howard Taft. So he has served in a wonderful capacity. I consider him a great friend. And back in the day, Art will remember this, there was a mayor of your predecessor, Mayor Mueller, was Tom Green, fancy dance attorney from Lake Mary. Anytime he would walk into Sanford public meetings, or I'd be giving a speech and say, hey, welcome to the mayor of West Sanford. We used to joke, call Lake Mary. So they didn't appreciate that hire. Apollo, we got an estoppel or an injunction or something, so we can no longer call it City of Lake Mary, West Sanford. So Mayor David Mueller. Now we've got, on the end, I'm going to go to Mayor Heidi first. So Mayor Heidi, and probably does not remember me, I had hair when I last worked with her. We brought the neighborhood market to the Saxon area there. So we did a development. Deltona used to be very underserved, and we're going to hear more about Deltona and some of the awesome improvements they've made in the last few years. But for many years, it was difficult to shop in Deltona. It was difficult to get prescriptions in Deltona. So we proposed a neighborhood market on Saxon, right in the heart of a relatively residential area, when I believe it was the Mackle brothers that developed Deltona back in the day. I mean, you can get lost in Deltona if you don't know your way around. But, so she and I worked together, some of the neighbors. Typical, 2 of my clients are McDonald's and Walmart. Everyone shows up at public hearings, they're against them both, and they're always there on opening day. Some of the biggest, most happy customers thereafter. But, so we actually worked together in the past. I'll tell you a little bit. Now, the rest of the mayors better be careful. Deltona is almost as large as the other 3 cities on this panel combined.
Easily.
So she's got some serious backup if things go haywire for Deltona here. So I'll tell you another thing I like. She's very active in everything. Florida League of Cities, but you're very active in the spay and neuter program for the trafficked cat. So this is another public servant that's actually doing things that matter, getting things done. So looking forward to hearing more from her about the city of Deltona, one of the largest cities in the area. So, Mayor Hertzberg. And then, and I will say this, I did not have to call anyone about how to pronounce her name,
Good.
but it's phonetically spelled on the website. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I have a great city staff.
Yes. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. This mayor, and she won't remember this, I was so impressed the first time I heard her speak. I actually sent her a note. I said, wow, Mayor, you blew me away.
Yes, I did get the note.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
So this is years ago.
Yeah.
So she became mayor on New Year's Day, I believe, of 19?
19 after being elected in Nixon.
Yes. And elected, or your opponent chickened out?
That's called elected.
Okay. Mayor Karen Chazet.
I actually was elected on July 25th of 2018.
She was sworn in as mayor New Year's Day, and it's truly been a new day in DeBerry. I can't wait. Somebody at our table said, wow, DeBerry's got a lot to talk about, so it's going to be very exciting to...
I have my map here, yes.
Yes. So Mayor Chazet took over for Mayor Bob Garcia, who never met anyone he didn't hug, drove around in his Dodge pickup truck, parked wherever he wanted,
With the sign.
with the signs, operated out of the trucks, plane the city needed to make his car payment, all kinds of crazy things. So, and I say that affectionately. Bob Garcia, awesome guy.
Yeah.
But you are certainly,
It's a different kind of personality.
it's a different era,
For
for
good or
sure.
for ill.
So, she hails from the great state of Maryland,
Correct.
moved down here as a retired business executive. So, oh, what a novel concept. Let's bring business acumen to public service. I mean, this lady knows fiscal reports, personnel, management styles. I mean, phenomenal asset for the city of DeBary, the River City, but also for Central Florida. So, I did find out a little secret about you.
Let me guess.
It's one of the best kept secrets that, ironically, has been viewed 275 million times on YouTube. Check this out.
It's not relevant to being mayor of DeBary.
I understand. But Mayor Chazé has a son that was in the boy band, NSYNC, JC Chazé. So that's an interesting fact, Mayor.
And prior to that was on the Mickey Mouse Club, beginning when he was 14, he's 44, he's been in the industry for 30 years.
Exactly. So with that, I mean, that was great. That was with Justin Timberlake, by the way.
I've known him since he was 11.
Yes, I had a
And
daughter.
his family.
Wheeler's blaming his daughter for being a Justin Timberlake.
And Brittany and Christina were part of that Mickey Mouse crew.
That is
And their
phenomenal.
families, we know all that.
That is awesome. All right, so Mayor Chazé. The first thing we'd like to do, and on the script it says read these questions that we Googled and all, and we're going to ask each mayor the same question. We're not going to do it that way this time.
Wait, those are the answers I
Yeah, oh, yeah. He's got a good staff too, Mayor. Yeah.
And it's written down in verbatim. I got these rules.
You are not Norton Bonaparte. No, but let's start. I'm telling you, let's start from the left here. Let's start with the ladies. We'll pass the mic. Mayor Hertzberg, tell us a little bit about you, your background, how you ended up in politics, and just kind of your background in that regard.
Okay, great. So originally I'm from Wisconsin, moved down here in the early 80s, and my parents purchased a small business. I'm a stylist, and so we purchased a salon in Ormond Beach, and I started working in Ormond. I still do, and have always lived in Deltona and watched the city grow pretty much from, unincorporated Volusia County into the 10-year drama of trying to incorporate Deltona. So as time went on, I was for incorporation, kind of worked on that a little bit, and continued to do my day job, and started becoming more and more active in the community. And as I was telling the other mayors, basically got, after I spoke at City Hall, the mayor at the time was Dennis Mulder, gave me a call and said, would you be interested in running for commission? I was like, well, okay, maybe not. So they kind of cultivated me for a year, and then pretty much put the qualifying papers under my nose and said, sign and run. And so I did, and it has been, for someone that really didn't know a lot about my city, because I worked somewhere else and had a clientele in another city, it was really a growing and learning experience, and I learned so much, not only about the west side of Volusia and Deltona, where I've lived since the 80s, but I learned about our region and everything else. And so I went in there really green and learned everything that I could. And I'm so grateful that I was able to do that. So then we have term limits. So I was termed out after 2 years as commissioner, decided to run for mayor, and I'm in my first term as that. And I'm just so happy I was able to do that, because truly, you hear the negative of public service, but as you see up here and you see out here, there's so much positive and there's so much good that you can do. So it's been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
Fantastic. Go ahead, Mayor Chazé.
Okay.
Oh, before you go, Mayor Chazé,
Yes.
Mayor Hertzberg, one of your greatest quotes ever. So she comes into office, there were some personnel issues that needed to...
Hard to believe, Deltona.
Yeah, hard to believe in Deltona. So, after a bunch of debate, Mayor Hertzberg was quoted as saying, I'm tired of throwing money down this hole, flushing money down this toilet into Deltona's non-existent sewer system. The crowd goes crazy, and, they're going to make her emperor, probably. Sorry, I remember that line. It's classic.
Right. As you
referred to my background, I am a retired executive from a publicly traded company, traded on the New York Stock Exchange and the Toronto Stock Exchange, that was based in Chicago. And we had adult children down here, so in 2004, we purchased a home in unincorporated Sanford that we still own, and my parents have been residents there for the recent years. And then in 2008, we decided that we would build a home on the river, we hoped, and we found that what is an increasingly scarce commodity, which is a direct main channel riverfront lot in DeBerry, and we built our home there. And I commuted back and forth to Chicago until through 2011. I would fly back down here on Friday nights and back to Chicago Sunday nights. And then I traveled for business during the week. And there was one time I said I have 3 of my own beds that I sleep in each week because I have an apartment near the office. And then I traveled on business. In early 2011, I retired. And we had been active with our new community in some infrastructure issues. Road maintenance, it was a sand road at that time, and extremely poor water quality for our wells because of a geological feature that affected our neighborhood. And so when I retired, we ratcheted up those activities, my husband and I, with some other residents who had been trying to get some things done for years. And together as a team, we were able to pave the road and put in public water for 70 lots. And that was quite an achievement, and I became more involved in City Hall during that time. And so over time, I saw some of the challenges the city had, and I was thinking, just as you've alluded, you know, some of my business skills could come to play here, and we have some really critical things coming at us, like septic to sewer conversions for the Gemini Springs BMAP. And the skill sets that were represented, I felt were missing some components that would be critical during that project. Is that a nice way to say it?
Yes.
And so I was contemplating running, and I was approached by someone, but my independent streak led me to file the papers before I met with the person, because I was already about 98% there. So it's been a learning situation for me, as it was for Heidi. But I feel so proud because in 2 years, we've accomplished a phenomenal amount, and we have some extremely exciting things going on in the city because we have a city manager whose goals and vision is aligned with my goals and vision, and that's a wonderful pairing, as many of you will know. You can get things accomplished if you're not internally heading different directions.
Well, first of all, thank you. And in many ways, my being elected parallels a lot of the success that we've had in the greater community, not because of what I did. In December 1979, I was contacted by the University of Central Florida and said, listen, you've been nominated for this particular position. We'd like to interview you. And I said, University of Central Florida. I said, where's that? He said, we're in Orlando. I said, there are 2 universities in Orlando. And he laughed. He said, no, we just changed our name. Well, as it turns out, in February of 1980, mid-year, midterm, I came to the University of Central Florida to develop and direct a graduate program. That time, I had met my now wife. She was on her way to Chapel Hill to graduate school. I moved to Lake Mary. I've been there since. In the interim of the 1980 to 1988, my graduate student did a lot of research for the city of Lake Mary, pro bono, I might add. But Lake Mary was going through this true transformation. You had a community that had been established for a long time, whose forefathers did some remarkable things for that community. And you had some younger people moving in as basically demanding that certain things take place. There was a lot of conflict. So a group came to me and said, David, because of your wife's background, her family lived there since 1925, and your age, would you consider running? And I said, no. And they said, no, consider running because you could serve as a bridge between those two groups. I thought about it. I did my research. The first check that I received with support was from the past president and former mayor of the city of Sanford, with some specific directions on what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And if you know that gentleman, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I've been so blessed. Since 1988, I've been able to serve my community for every 2 years, either as commissioner, mayor, or state representative. And I truly give thanks, because what we've been able to do in Lake Mary couldn't take place without the true equal success simultaneously of our school district, Seminole State College, and the University of Central Florida.
I'm not sure my story is nearly as interesting as these. What it really came down to is, and you might remember this, y'all made me mad. Well, and I'm like, I'm going to run. But yeah, and I joked with Larry Dale about this. There was a land use decision that I was there arguing on, and he was just, don't know Larry Dale, so you can just imagine, and we are going back and forth, like, this isn't how it should. I'm running. And what happened was Brady lived down the street from me, and he was going to run for mayor. His seat was going to be open, and so the seat was opening up. And I jumped in. And interestingly, I was there for about 10 years. I decided my kids were going to middle school. I wanted some time off. It had been 10 years. I thought I was going to take more than 4 years off. I was thinking, maybe when I'm retired from teaching and have some time, I'll run for mayor. And 4 years later, they made me mad again, so I ran for commission. And here I am. One other historical tidbit, though, in the late 20-teens, early 2020s, my great-great-grandfather was mayor of Sanford. And when I became mayor, I went back and we started looking through the minutes because I wanted to make sure he hadn't done anything really bad. Because some bad things happened in the 20s. And we have checked, and he was not part of it.
Well, it's funny, Art, that you bring that up. So, Charles Davis always points out at any public event, Brady, no one even remembers when you were mayor. So, I'm glad that you brought it up. Those were the golden years. Now, Sanford, I brought this. This will be a funny memory. Sanford has a phenomenal history, Mr. Bonaparte, of naming buildings and swimming pools and parks after former mayors. So their names go up on walls, and mine came down from a wall. This was the day after I left office. This was left on my porch with a Post-it note that said, "Good riddance." My front door. I open my door and falls, cuts my leg. This is metal. That was the end of my tenure. Charles, I was mayor.
That wasn't great.
Yeah, it wasn't. So, anyway, that's a true story.
Make that sound.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with just real quickly. What's your favorite project, your pet project? We'll start down here with you this time, Mark. Your pet project, what you see is your biggest accomplishment that you've either achieved or would like to achieve moving forward. Or in your tenure, I'm sorry.
Oh, there's so much.
Oh, you're just a wealth of good.
Well, no, the problem
You're
is...
like Mark Twain. Mark Twain said, I'm for everything good and against everything bad. I mean, the guy was hilarious.
Well, what you did, you threw in the part that made it sound like I was going to be responsible for any of these things. So these are all things that are happening because we have great people in our city, and I'll start with the airport over here because one of the things I was going to mention was 99% complete on our terminal expansion. And if y'all have not been out there, it is phenomenal, and it's because of these people over here. And we are well positioned to bring in some other airlines, to bring in more business and industry, and that's going to be a huge driver for all of us here. And I don't know how you got here. I got here through the traffic accident area, but the Riverwalk, which started, you got the first ribbon, right? So for the first phase, and so this is our third phase, and this stretches all the way along the lakefront in Sanford, and will soon connect to the other side of the lake. I was checking on, when is that Celery Avenue connector getting done, and it's coming along. So it's going to be a great way to tie us together with that 27-mile loop all around Lake Road. Other things you mentioned, historic preservation, I've been very much involved in restoring the old Hopper Academy, which was the original school for coloreds in what was then Orange County. And we now have a good arts program going in there. We still have some work to do, and COVID has sort of slowed us down because we weren't able to open up like we wanted to. But the St. Johns River Festival of the Arts runs a phenomenal program for kids and have been doing things for adults. So we've got that going on.
So, put that in perspective. So Hopper Academy was the high school for the
It was
African American community.
the school.
The school, but put it in perspective, because I know a little bit about this, but how far would young African American kids walk to that school? Because I know you've had some anecdotal discussions on that front.
They would come, from Sanford, from out, Midway. There was a school out in Oviedo. I'm not sure how far south they would come from.
But they would walk.
But in the 1900s, early 1900s, late 1800s, it was the school. And the property was first set aside by Henry Sanford. And it's interesting, we've gone back and they're not great records. Kenneth Bentley, his mother, his aunt, Altemise, was one of the drivers in getting this building saved. It had been suggested that they use this as a burn exercise for the fire department, and she said no. And so, because of her and a group of people in the neighborhood to save that. But what's been great, we mentioned, I'll be there working, and somebody will come up and say, I went to school here, and they'll be 70, 80 years old, and I had a grandfather bring his grandchildren one day because he wanted them to see where he was. And that's one of the great things about Sanford is the history of it, and we've got things like that all over the place.
And I'm glad Art brought up the airport. I remember when I first got sworn in, we had about 50,000 passengers coming into that airport out there. You put that in perspective, Mr. Nolan, how many would you say are coming in this year? Millions?
Well, 1.5 million.
Yeah, I mean, outside of COVID, the growth curve that's occurred out there, and I just saw Judge Simmons, who's also on the board out at the Airport Authority, and Mr. Bill Miller, longtime builder here in Seminole County, so nice to have the board represented to that.
We were up to 3 million?
Yeah.
3.3 million probably.
I guess thinking on that question, Brady, I'd really have to go back to 1992 when the commission sat down in a strategic planning session and simply said, what is our 20-year vision? This is what we want to be. We're going to work backwards. And fortuitously, AT&T was interested in relocating from Atlanta. What happened in Lake Mary is an example of true collaboration and partnership that we've enjoyed with the county over the years. My nephew worked at Georgia Tech, and I contacted them because AT&T was in Atlanta at the time, and we talked about AT&T is debating between Atlanta and Lake Mary. They said they're not going to be in Atlanta, they're going to go to Florida. But economic incentives were on the table for the first time. And I talked to the gentleman at Georgia Tech about an economic incentive and what would this look like. He said, today, if you gave me a $5 bill and I gave you a $20 bill, would you make that deal? I said, every day of the week. He said, that's the potential of what AT&T will bring to your community. Now today, economic incentives are very different. But because of AT&T coming to Lake Mary simultaneously with the development of the I-4 corridor and Primera and International Parkway, again, why I was elected, some of the rift between the community, we went to our residents and we said, if you'll allow us to develop the I-4 corridor, there's nothing small town, there's nothing rural, there's nothing bucolic about I-4. Allow us to develop I-4 in a way that we think will be beneficial, and we will use that money to buffer our residential communities. We have done that, and I really believe that that catalyst then has allowed for International Parkway, the Reinhardt Road corridor, and some other things. But all of this was done in collaboration and partnership with the city of Sanford and with the county.
This one is an easy one for me.
First of all, I've only been in office for 2 years, but my favorite project that we are working on currently is the acquisition of 170 acres, of which 150 acres are conservation land with 2 miles of a berm walkway on the St. Johns River, the main channel. And this would be huge for our city because we have rightfully, probably, permitted developments on either side of this property. It is in the south end of our city where we are developing our Main Street project across from Sunrail and having the transportation-oriented development build out. And we're trying to do that extremely carefully with the highest quality developments that we can come up with. But at the first hard bend in Fort Florida Road, if you go past Sunrail, is this property that has been on the market for several years. It's owned by a large number of heirs, perhaps 30-some owners, but it's marketed by one realtor. And the asking price was $3.9 million. So I was well aware that this property was desired by some residents to be in public hands. First of all, we are the river city, but finding recreational foot access along the riverfront is almost impossible unless you're privileged enough to own a riverfront property, and there are very few of those. So first of all, it's a beautiful property. It's undeveloped. It's a large parcel. It seasonally floods. It's the marshland in the center. It also includes an island in the St. Johns River, Alexander Island, and there's a reason for that. And it includes 20 acres of uplands that actually have the edge of a PUD, an existing PUD has 40 homes permitted for that uplands. So we had a circumstance where the city became aware that a citizen support organization that works closely with DEP was looking for a St. Johns River site for a research facility for freshwater. They already had saltwater. And my staff was pursuing this with gusto. I'm so proud of them. And they told me where they had in mind we would site this thing in our city, and it was the wrong site in my view, because neither of these individuals who were working on it were aware of this property. I had never brought it up to anybody because it was $3.9 million. We've got a $19 million a year budget, 22,000 people. It wasn't going to happen. So I said, time out. You have the small vision. We need to go for the grand vision. Fast forward, we have lots of support. We've been in front of Florida Forever since last fall. We were able in the December meeting of the Florida Forever board to get the boundary of the Wekiva Greenway expanded to go across the river and encompass this property. This morning, the city manager would be here with me because we often do these kinds of things together. But this morning, the ARC committee for Florida Forever is setting the work program for the next year in their meeting. And so he is attending that virtually on our behalf. I will meet him at a groundbreaking for one of our large developments at 11, and he will tell me where we stand in the work program, although the Wekiva Greenway has a very high priority. And in May, we will find out what they will do as far as funding for this potential acquisition. And the vision is that the Aquatic Preserve Alliance or Aquatic Research Alliance would build on the uplands. We would remove 40 home sites from our developmental plan, which is fine with me. And we would have 150 acres for passive public enjoyment. And we are working hard on alternative sources of funding if Florida Forever does not give us everything that we need. We believe it can be acquired for less than the asking price, and it looks very promising. And that is a project that we are very eagerly looking to bringing across the finish line.
Well, Mayor, I just received a text from Bob Horry. He has pledged $1 million towards that acquisition.
He is my new
My
best
God.
friend.
Yes. Mayor Hertzberg.
Thank you. So, Deltona's a young city, right? We just turned 25 years of incorporation this past year. And there are a lot of good things that we've had going on. Amazon came in, we had a hospital. We have things that are really amazing that are in our backyard. But the one thing that I think for myself as an individual and as an elected official, the one thing when I got elected, because as I told you initially, I didn't know a lot and didn't know a lot of people, but I decided the one thing that I needed to do for my city was bring some credibility and some regionalism and some outreach to Deltona, because that had been sorely lacking, just due to the fact that it was a very young city and a lot of internal issues, which happens, they're growing pains, and a very small mindset of staying within our borders. And so when I got elected, as you said originally, I decided to get active, again by default, in the League of Cities, Volusia League of Cities, and in every single board that I could get on. And I tried to learn everything that I possibly could, because I wanted to have Deltona have a presence. Not only because of our demographic, that we're a large, diverse city, but for the fact that the residents truly deserve to have the access to grants. They deserve to have the access to more development, different development, and they also deserve to have the credibility of what we are as a city. So that was my main goal. And in the, 12 years that I've been an elected official, I really feel that that's the one thing that I can say I did statewide and regionally, is try to put us on the map for the city that we truly are, and not what you read in the paper, and not the little infighting or the sound bites or the management changes that we all go through. But I think when you look at your populace that you're elected to represent, those people deserve to have the best access. And through that, we've been able to really have, grant opportunities. We've been able to have the opportunities for development, and we've been able to look internally and see what we can change to make those things possible, which in turn brings a better quality of life. And on a side note, Brady, you mentioned that I do like the TNR program. And for me, that in my heart, to start that program in the city and to have a massive group of volunteers that we have in our city that are all pretty much, a lot of those people don't have a lot, but they give. They give of themselves, they give of their time, they give of the financials that they have. And for me, that's the one thing I can truly say I'm so proud of bringing a group of people together for a common cause, where there's no recognition, there's no financial gain, it's just pure. So I hope that's an adequate answer.
And I probably didn't do that justice. Will you just give a nickel description of that program, Heidi, of what those,
I will.
Because I've seen those folks out, the trapping, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, just to give you a perspective, Deltona's a big city, 37,000 homes now. And every city, whether it's Sanford or Lake Mary or DeBerry or Volusia County, we all have issues with animals, and the one big thing is feral cats. And you have a group of people that would always go out there and feed them and take care of them. And a policy years ago, throughout Florida especially, because we live in an area where it's very warm. You don't have the cold weather cull that you have in the north, where animals don't reproduce in the winter and they die. Here you have a constant reproduction. You also have a very, very transient society. We have a lot of people that move, that come into Florida, that leave their animals behind. So you definitely have a feral cat problem. And short version of that is a municipality, as we all know, it's not magical that you just pick up a dog or a cat from the street and it goes to a shelter and it's free. There's a cost to that. And in Volusia County, it's about $94 an impound. Every animal that goes to a humane society costs a municipality about $95. Not to mention what you're paying what you're paying for your officers and so forth. But there's a lot of grants out there now, and we have a core group of volunteers that trap, neuter, and release these animals instead of the previous method of trap and kill. At the height, Deltona spent 1 year $173,000 in impound fees to our humane societies. Of that, I can just give you a quick statistic, I think it was 2,525 animals were impounded, 167 were returned to owner, 1,962 cats were euthanized, and about 400 adoptions. So when you look at those kind of numbers, it's real money, it's taxpayer money, and it's a continuous cycle. And when you have a group of people in your community that are willing to do all that work for free, costs $50 to fix a cat and give it its shots, costs $100 to kill it. and you got free labor, and you have people that give up their hearts. And that is the one thing that I really support, because all these people were being, you know, they were being told they were going to be arrested. They were going to be, there were older people, long before I became elected official. We had a feeding ban, $250 fine if you don't take that bowl away from your front porch. I mean, that's not what we're about. So, you know, in a greater concept, just to not belabor that, but when you have a community group of volunteers like that, you look into what your community is. You see the old people that don't have the money to put a roof on their house, and they can't fix their air conditioner, but they're using their small amount that they have to help their animals. You begin to see what's really in your community, the good and the bad and what needs help. And that's why I say that with a volunteer program like that, because it truly gives you an insight as an elected official of who you're representing and where you need to direct your resources.
Well, Mayor Mueller, while you've got the microphone, I would ask you, believe me, Mayor Shazza, musical chair. Yeah, it's trust me. Quick question, and this is, we've all been, I think, certainly as a Central Florida community, at a point where, boy, I've never seen an economy like this. I've never seen a building blitz like this. And listen, yes, we have. I was at Mellow Mushroom. I always like to hear people's stories. So Mellow Mushroom has one of my favorite waitresses in Central Florida, or servers in Central Florida. She's got like a Princess Leia type thing going on. First time I meet her, she comes up to the table, bouncing all over the place. You could tell, super, super intelligent person. So I tell my friend Max, I said, guarantee she's a genius. He says, how do you know? I said, I guarantee it's bet lunch. So we bet lunch, she comes back. I won't use her name, but I said, I just described her as looking like Princess Leia, Mellow Mushroom. I shouldn't run the witness protection program. But she comes up and I said, you seem to be very, very intelligent. She says, oh, I try to stay well-read. And I said, well, put that in perspective. Are you a genius? And she gets a little shy. I said, what'd you get on the ACT? She says, a 36. What'd you get on the SAT? A 1580. I said, Max is buying lunch. Anyway, you start talking to someone. She also runs the catering of Mellow Mushroom. Their largest clientele, I'm getting to my question, their largest client, Verizon. Mellow Mushroom's largest catering client is Verizon. Now, Mayor, with all due respect, and the development you guys have along International has paid the bills and paved the way for a phenomenal community. Large parts of that are empty right now. So how do you kind of bridge back? How do you attract? There's going to have to be some backfill in that Class A office space there. How are you poising yourself if companies are scaling back? A lot of these companies are learning, wow, we can stay efficient working from home. So the Verizons and some of the larger tenant bases over there, are you hearing any concerns on that front?
I don't know if concern is the right word or not, for the simple reason that there may be a better way to do business in terms of the companies down and to the right. I will tell you, and I'm glad you mentioned Verizon, because when I said in 1992 we had a 20-year window of what we wanted to be, and we worked backwards and then went forward. Verizon's International Center of Excellence in Finance opened in 2012. That was a 20-year window. The next 20-year window we have working backwards right now really is focused on the medical corridor on Reinhardt Road, with the amazing partnerships with Advent Health and Orlando Health, simultaneously going vertical. I will tell you right now that I think the most important thing that we do in Lake Mary is we're already attracting companies that want to come in. They will tell you right now that we need space. We need buildings. The most important thing they need is skilled workforce. And that's what we have in Lake Mary and here in Seminole County and in our region. We have something that's truly unique. We have a public school system that's dedicated to getting people career ready. We have a state university right now that is one of the #1 employers for certain industry sectors. But something happened recently that I'm so proud of. At Seminole State College, everybody's familiar with the Federal Work Study Program. However, of the 1,500 state colleges in the country, or whatever number that is, 160 were awarded a unique grant. The only college in the state of Florida to receive this federal work-study experiment grant is Seminole State College. And why I share this with this group right now is it gives you an opportunity as a small business or a business owner, period, to work with Seminole State College and take a student out of that program and bring them into your workforce. So talk about grow your own, train from within, and guess what? It's a cost-sharing program that works to your benefit. And if I may right now, I see some people from Seminole State here. I see Dr. Johnny Craig, Dr. Gillen. I see the incredible economic development person, but Nate Ferguson. Nate, would you just raise your hand for a minute? Nate is responsible for that program. He'll be here, so if you want additional information, it's a remarkable program. And I think it's a great pipeline for a skilled workforce, because we have something in this region that others write about and talk about, and we're doing it. So as far as what will happen to that workforce, I think that's yet to be determined. But the one thing we know here in Seminole County and in our region, we're prepared with a skilled workforce. That's what the Fortune 500 companies will tell you. That's the most important thing to us. So based on what we're here right now, quality of life, look what we're doing. Skilled workforce, an amazing family structure, if you will, in terms of how we treat each other. I think it's a remarkable time to be part of this greater community, and there's so much to share. I mean, if you just stop and think about this for a minute, sunrise on the St. Johns River or Lake Monroe, and that amazing river walk now. Deltona, the second largest city between Orlando and Jacksonville, you can market that. And then in DeBerry, High Banks Marina, to go down there, have a cool beverage and watch a river flow by, it's a mental health break. We're very, very blessed with what we have in this region.
Don't go to High Banks Marina on your first day of owning a boat for the first time since high school. I will tell you, it's kind of an arena of people drinking beer and looking down. So I take my boat and son out for an easy boat ride. I overpaid for a boat from someone in this room who I will not mention. First boat ride out, I said, man, it'd be nice to go in there for lunch. That's our whole plan. My kid sits down. No. So there were other boats, equally expensive or nice, and you can kind of bang it up a little bit in there if you're not a good pilot. So.
Yeah, but I told you to stay out of there, just for the record.
Exactly. So, Mayor Chazet, snatch that back from Mayor Miller.
Got it.
I'll come down and get it from you next.
Yeah.
But, so, the mayor mentioned the skilled workforce and this. I see Bob McClellan and Warren Smith. They're dying for good workforce people. I mean, it's.
We have one of their senior people as a resident of
Really?
DeBerry.
I believe you guys built this, right, Bob? Built this building. If you didn't, you should have. Warren Smith,
They have invested heavily in the zoo, for sure.
they absolutely have. Warren Smith, back when I was mayor, and Art still does. Warren Smith is in Sanford, even though they're truly in Lake Monroe. We get it,
Right,
Bob. You have your
right.
own zip code. But on that front, so DeBerry, let's be honest, 20 years ago was kind of out in the boonies, kind of an affordable place to live nicely. I mean, DeBerry Golf and Country Club. You remember Mayor Miller when they first, that predated you probably.
It did,
Mayor.
it did,
So that was a cool place to live, but man, it was way out there.
right.
So, as far as affordable housing goes, there's two ends of the spectrum. One is, hey, build free and
Sure.
subsidized housing, and on the other side, it's, hey, if you want affordable housing, make more money. But it used to be a much less expensive place to live across the river. Why don't you tell us what's happening in DeBerry, and it's happening in Deltona as well?
Okay, we do have still what I consider affordable housing, in that we have manufactured housing communities that have been in place for many years. We have some of our original neighborhoods that still have homes at what you would consider an affordable level. We have a few subsidized apartments, condos on one section of 1792 almost at Orange City. But we have a new build out along the south part of our city around Sunrail and also along Fort Florida Road. And that is the road you would turn left on if you were almost at High Banks Marina. And it's a beautiful road. For much of it, you have the oak canopy, which we are preserving as much as possible. And you have this feel of being out in the country. But we are having subdivisions being built there. We're being very careful in the quality of development there. And the market is extremely hot for everything that is being built. It's being sold out ahead of the builders' schedules. And I will leave here this morning to go for the groundbreaking for Rivington, which is the largest such subdivision. And that will be eventually 700 homes, from townhomes to single-family homes. And we have required trails to be built as part of the PUD. And this is an amenity that is welcomed by buyers. You have a trail that will take you, you can walk or bike over to Sunrail, you can go into River City Nature Park. This area has 5 parks with 624 acres, and we have connections to 660 miles of trails because the 3 regional trails come together there. And this is not lost on the home buyers. That market for housing is solidly in the mid-300s. So that's still very affordable. You can get very nice sized new builds with a lot of amenities in the mid-300s. And in this market, you know, years ago we would have said, well, that's the top end, but that's not the top end. The top end in DeBerry used to move very slowly for just what you've said. It was deemed to be a bedroom community with some lower cost housing. In the last 2 months, I'm familiar with 2 higher end houses that went on the market due to positioning on the river. And one that was purchased in 2018 for $500,000, went with competing bids for $750,000 cash in February. And another property never made it to the market and went for $1 million cash the first week of March. And in DeBerry, you used to, those kinds of properties, while they had value, they were the small number of properties, and so you had a limited number of people willing to put that kind of dollar down in DeBerry. But right now, they don't even hit the market. So we have an extremely hot market, but part of it is we are leveraging what we have, which is nature and outdoors, living lifestyle. We're going to make these developments very broadband friendly, because we think that work-at-home workers, which we now have a big bubble of, will welcome these new living facilities that are close to Sunrail, have all this outdoor activity, and they also are going to be your young professionals that do not want the home that has the septic field that will be converted sometime in the next 20 years, and the yard to mow, and the roof to repair, and all of that. That's not their lifestyle. So we're pulling in a different demographic than we did historically. So it's a very exciting time.
Mayor Hertzberg. So Mayor Chazet mentioned $1 million. So it's roughly 1 million square feet, right? The Amazon that went in?
Yes.
So to put that in perspective, and I'll slow the math down here for you, Charles, but an acre is 45,000 square feet. So multiply that by 20. 20 acres under air, new jobs. Tell us how Amazon has impacted. I mean, gasoline sales. I track LGT funding and things. It's phenomenal, those vans running out of there. So how has Amazon changed? I know how it's changed America. Listen, Bezos and I could probably have a conversation that he wouldn't like, but Amazon's phenomenal. There's very few people that do things as well as McDonald's does, Amazon does, Walmart.
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, right? Exactly. So how has Amazon changed Deltona, and how have you guys been able to change the code enforcement situation in Deltona? Deltona used to be a mess, let's be honest. For a good 20 years, Deltona was a very messy place. Obviously, you all have stepped up code enforcement, so first Amazon, then code enforcement.
So first Amazon, along I-4, the I-4 corridor, we had a lot of open land, and we still do, and there's actually another distribution center that's to be coming in the Portland Industries Park area, right around Amazon. But I'll tell you what Amazon did. Not only did it changed the landscape, it provided jobs, and I know they did a job fair at our center, and they were kind of looking at, not Amazon, but our people were kind of just saying, hey, are you from Deltona? Where are you from? And it was a really high percentage that were in our region, which was good. Deltona, DeLand, DeBerry, this area, which means that you have a lot of people that are living in that area working there, which really cuts down on commuting, it cuts down on the I-4 issue. And that's really, really, it's great to provide a $15 an hour wage with benefits for Volusia County, because we tend to be a lot more service oriented, especially the further east you go, and you have a lot of people that don't have health insurance and so forth. Deltona is very, very unique because we do have a lot of people that leave the city and come this way, right? But Amazon really, really also changed the way we worked internally. We were able to fast track that facility because we streamlined our internal process. And as we all know in government, it tends to get bureaucratic at times and so forth, but we were able to really, really work together with staff internally. And I think that made a huge difference because we learned from it. And we learned that that's the next step that you need to do for the next big development that comes in, just like Halifax Hospital did. So Amazon is a catalyst for much more to come in that area. And I really like, Mayor, what you said about building out around I-4 and then using that to buffer your interior. And I think that's kind of where we are at the Howland Boulevard area. And code enforcement, well now. Number 2 on my list after TNR.
Yes.
So,
Come to the listening session she's holding.
yeah, May 4th at the center with the sheriff. That'll be a good one. I know Chip will be there. But we are doing, actually, right now, we hired a consultant that came in to look over our code enforcement and animal control department, because I'm so glad that you said that we're stepping it up, because we've definitely had a lot of internal issues and external issues. So what we're doing is listening sessions for the community. Every commissioner, we have 7 to 6 commission districts, and then the mayor, we're doing a listening session in every single district, and asking the residents to come out to tell us, you know, what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong, and mainly what do you want to see? Because when you have a predominantly residential community, we don't have the issues like you do with you know, maybe empty office buildings and so forth, but you have a big residential base and a lot of turnover, and the demographics are changing, very much so. So we're really working on code enforcement, because if you don't watch those older areas where the old original Mackel Brother homes are, we did some internal research on the property appraiser. We're about 24%, 25, 26% rentals. But when you really start looking at the depth of the rental market in Deltona, you can almost assume with sublets and people renting out, you know, rooms within their house, you're almost at 30%. And Daytona's at 50. And so when you're at a 30% rental base, you really need to start looking at how you're going to manage that. So we're looking at some rental ordinances and starting to work on that, because you have to have control of that continually changing rental base. Otherwise, your property values go down, and the last thing that we need is to have those older areas turn worse than they already are. So we're working on that.
As the microphones come down to Mayor Woodruff, Art, gasoline prices are up nearly 30% since January. Lumber's up 170%. Inflation's coming. I mean, we're printing money. There's 40% more money in circulation, I read the other day, today than there was January of 19. So you're a sharp guy. You know physics. Are the wheels coming off?
You know, as he phrases these questions, you're rolling around. Like,
No.
Where is he going with this?
Are the wheels coming off? I mean, I read something, and I just had my buddy retext it. This was online. So whatever you think about the stimulus program, it's the number of stimulus programs that have happened. He's laughing about the monetary supply, but I read this. Now, this is a direct quote from someone posting this online. My stimmy about to hit. I want Botox and lips. Where to y'all recommend? Now, that's an American that we are sending $1,400 to. I'm at the gym last night.
Not at the gym last night.
The guy no way. The guy that checks me in has got black fingernails, and he says, Mr. Grady, he doesn't even know my name. He says, Mr. Grady, look what I'm getting. He's buying a motorcycle. And listen, I understand a stimulus does just that. It's a sugar high for the economy. Do you see this economy continuing And if not, for Sanford in particular, do you see the absorption of housing out near the airport and on Lake Mary Boulevard? Do you see that slowing down? Because some would argue that with the migration into Florida, our economy is immune for many, many years from that slowdown. But what do you think?
I haven't seen anything to indicate we're slowing down, especially in terms of the houses, other than what we're talking about in the city in terms of, what is it we really want, where do we want it, and how do we get what we want. We keep aiming for, that 20-year horizon of planning like Lake Mary does, and, I think we're finally getting to that point where we're able to drive what's coming to Sanford, if people want to be in Sanford. We've got the stimulus money coming down, and I've had a brief conversation with our city manager about it. This is money that needs to be an investment. Right? We're getting $12 million in Sanford. It needs to be an investment because this is money that's going to be being paid back for years. And so we're looking at things, how do we use this money to set ourselves up for the next 20 or 30 years so that we are still that place that people want to come to, that, is successful for businesses and things like that. We've certainly had some pain, but we are still seeing, industry coming in, both residential and industrial development happening. So I'm still very optimistic, but we need to be careful that we are planning for tomorrow, not spending on Botox for today.
Right. Well, Botox can last more than one day. And for the record, Mayor Hertzberg has never or will never be my stylist. She says there's just not enough to work with. So, Mayor Mueller, the last question for you, and then we're going to open it up. If everyone in the audience would kind of think of one question they'd like to ask one of the mayors. I know folks in the audience are always wondering, when do we get the heck out of here? Brady's got to wrap this thing up. I did promise we're going to get out early, but just think of a question you'd like to, and we're going to have one question for each mayor after Mayor Mueller. So Mayor Mueller, we know that you are the consummate salesman for your city, as you should be. What can Lake Mary do better? Because I'm sitting here struggling. What can Lake Mary do better? I'm not sure if there are many improvements you can make.
Well, I think the most important thing that we've been able to do, as a commission, we've been able to speak in one voice. We've hired remarkably talented people. We'll tell them what we want. We're not going to tell them how to do it, but we'll give them the resources they need. As long as they meet frankly, our objectives. What we're doing right now in Lake Mary, I'm very excited about this, because we are now introducing what we call a transect plan. Now, several of us work with regional planning councils, League of Cities, those types of things. We've been very fortunate with our transit-oriented development district. As a matter of fact, our Sunrail apartment complex station house is the marker feature in their brochure. But we need to do a much better job with our older area in Lake Mary, our downtown area. We're already meeting with a couple of groups to help us design streetscapes, infrastructure. But what you'll see right now in Lake Mary, there will be no more multi-family housing approved in Lake Mary. We're going to go in and we're going to be looking at townhouse concepts, bungalows, taking what that older area of Lake Mary was, is, and will be, and transforming it. We do that with the help of people such as CPH. What I love about CPH is I've been working with the city of Lake Mary since we were founded. It's a company that started down the street in downtown Sanford. That company today has a presence throughout the southeastern United States and the Caribbean. That's because of talent. It's because of the dedicated team. You mentioned Morton Smith earlier. You mentioned the airport. All of those things, when we work together, when we coalesce and collaborate, we're better for it. So right now, where Lake Mary may be good in some areas, the structure is, how do we get better? That's our challenge.
All right, before we open it up for questions, I just thought of something. I'm going to tell you a little secret about a secret place I know about each of these folks, these mayors' city. City of Deltona. The center at Deltona is phenomenal. I mean, and nobody in this room probably, if they're not from that side of the river, has a real good idea of what that entails. If you have an opportunity, Go check it out. We got to get more events in there,
Yes.
no doubt.
Absolutely.
But it is an architectural wonder that Deltona built. And I know there was some contention on audit, no audit. I know there was a lot of questions like that, but the center of Deltona is phenomenal. It's right off of Howland, I guess.
Yes.
Near, you turn right at the racetrack, and there's some corporate area that you all are hoping for, some development out there. So check out the center of Deltona. Mayor Chazé, I don't remember the name of this place. The chef is a crazy lady that always wears a chef hat. New restaurant right on 7th.
Chef Yo's.
Chef Yo's. She's as crazy as a $3 bill,
Yeah.
but phenomenal. I love going in there, and she's got a heart. She cooks with a heart. She does fish fries. You know, I'm not a fish guy a whole lot, but and she helps the older. I mean,
She delivers to the older community. You pay for the meal, but one of her staff members, I had been taking food to my parents for the last 6 months. One of the staff members consistently goes to the house. They learn to know the seniors. They deliver the food. She has been instantly a great hit in our community.
It is crazy. You know, Forrest Gump says life's a box of chocolates. I mean, life really is a garden of wildly cool people if you take the time to talk to people. That Chef Yo is nuts. Let's be honest, but
Well, and I will tell you this, that was born of the pandemic. She had been a caterer for years, and all the events were canceled. So she said, I have to redevelop my business vision. And so she said, I will go to brick and mortar, which is an unusual way to transition. She said, I will go to brick and mortar and will and I'll have the seniors delivery service, and I'll have a brick and mortar location, and we'll keep it small. It's small, and it will mainly be carry out, and it has been incredibly successful. And during the entire pandemic, DeBerry lost one food-based business, and in October, she was one of 4 new food-based businesses that opened up.
I'm not kidding you. About 6 months ago, I said, you know what? I'm going to flip a Yui. Flip a Yui.
Yeah.
Probably not a legal Yui, but went back, had lunch, met her, phenomenal. So I've been back many times. Mayor of Lake Mary, a couple of secrets. You got a phenomenal Colombian restaurant right off of Lake Emma, and you have one of the finest city managers. And if he were here, I would not be saying this about him. A guy by the name of Kevin Smith, who we talked about cancer today. He fought cancer publicly and won, thank God, but phenomenal. He runs the city of Lake Mary as Mayor Mueller and residents of Lake Mary. So the 2 secrets, the Colombian restaurant and then your city manager, phenomenal guy. And then Art, I'm telling you, if you have not been to the cattle range, Robbie, you've probably been to the cattle range. If you have not been to the cattle range, their sign says open daily at 5 p.m. and that's it. I was in there one time. I said, why don't you guys advertise? Oh man, we don't know about Facebook and all this stuff. So one of the young nieces, I met her one time. I said, you have got to be on Facebook. So during the pandemic, it's crazy how some of these companies were able to adjust. They stole or absconded with a Chick-fil-A uniform, you know, the cow uniform. Somehow, trademark infringement, right? Intellectual property, right? So the cattle ranch had this girl dancing out on Sanford Avenue in the Chick-fil-A. But if you have a chance, go to the cattle ranch.
It was performance art.
Yeah, performance art, exactly. So it's one of the finest restaurants you'll find, and it's owned by a family from Kentucky, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Daniel, not the state of Kentucky. Phenomenal people. So if you have a chance, that's the secret I tell you. All right. Is there a question for Mayor Hertzberg as we kind of wrap up the afternoon? Mayor of Deltona. Somebody's got to have something. We're not letting anybody off the hook. So think of a question or we're coming back. Mayor Chazé of DeBerry. Any questions for the mayor? Yes, ma'am.
I know you've got some cute boutiques coming in. Your Fashion Fix is one of them. Do you have any insight of any more cute little shops like that coming in?
I don't know of any more boutiques, but your Fashion Fix actually has been one of our success stories. And I'll be honest, initially when they opened in that tiny little space, I'm thinking a clothing store in a postage stamp place. What are the chances? Is this a vanity project? But she has a business model that is very successful. It's sort of a concierge kind of approach, and she has doubled her space in the period of time that she's been there, and so I think, no, it's not a vanity project.
We're hoping she's gonna open in Sanford too. We're hoping she's gonna expand.
Great.
Well, we have more space too in DeBerry.
All right, a question for Mayor Mueller.
How's your golf game?
Non-existent. Well, I'll ask a question then, since you mentioned your favorite waitress, server.
Oh, well, I'm glad you brought that up because I'll finish that story. So, thank you, Mayor Mueller. My script says this will take 11 minutes. It won't, but Princess Leia, we'll call her. So we established that she's a genius. My buddy Max pays for lunch. And, you know, the question becomes, wow, a genius at Mellow Mushroom that is obviously passionate. You know, Shakespeare said it, found in a nutshell, be the king of infinite space. So whatever you're doing in life, do it perfect. Be the king of it. So we say, Princess Leia, how'd you end up at Mellow Mushroom? She says, I've got a passion for pizza, and I've got one more month before I go over to Japan because I'm developing a cancer drug that the, quote, stupid FDA won't let us do here in the States. So here's this person you run into. I'm still friends with her. I sent her a copy of one of the greatest books of all time, The Giving Tree. I said, wow, this is unbelievable. Mail it to the restaurant. So we kind of pen pals now. So she's over there, you know, fled the regulatory framework here. So I'm sorry. So that was the waitress story, the end of it that I was supposed to tell you.
Well, since there are no questions for me, I'll ask one of Christine. If
Yes.
I could get a tabletop table tonight at your beer garden, I will tell the server that she's my best ever.
I'm glad you brought that up because that is no longer a secret. You remember I said we were talking about secrets. The Willow Tree, Hollerbox, the whole family, and when I say family, I'm talking all the employees. They've got more employees than you would think. The investment they made in their operation is phenomenal. If you don't have a chance to get down there tonight, which you won't, you would not be able to get a table.
You get there, you just can't get in.
But 3 stories now. Theo, being the egomaniac that he is, and yes, if he was here, I'd say that, has now his own beer, right? A beer named after him from 3 brides or 3 sisters or something over on the Gulf Coast, right?
His retirement project is opening another business in Sanford, and he's going to have a bicycle shop.
Yes. So, you guys got the German background. Remember what I said about Europeans, right? He's one of the crazy guys that rides around on a 10-speed on the road. It's like, man, get on a sidewalk, get on a trail, get out of the way. But anyway, he's got his own beer, so go check that out. And lastly, we're still going back to Mayor Hertzberg, so think of a question. Charles Davis has a question for Mayor Hertzberg.
Back pre-COVID, we had gone over and met with your economic development person, and you guys were looking at purchasing. You had purchased a park on the lakefront, in front of the boat ramp, and you were going to be. You had purchased, I think, 15 acres behind it, and you were looking to make it into an event center. So, and then we were at that time discussing having a boat going across, merging the two. It's a pipe dream now, but you know, so it was a trolley at one point too. But so, how is that project moving forward, and have you gotten funding for it? Because that seems to be the holding part back there.
That's the old Lakeshore Community Center, and the building itself has some structural issues, and talking to, they actually just brought the Blue Ways Trail System back to us. They're doing, internally working with all the lakes and everything and trying to do a trail system through the lake system, a Blue Ways Trail, and that would include that, and you know, nothing is off the table at this point. We're looking, we have the old craft building that they're looking to put a business in, and as well as the community center. There was a thing about doing a lodge back there and doing tree houses back there, and that type of a situation, but it's all very much on the table, and we now have dedicated more funding for ecotourism and for that, so they're still working on grants, but it's most definitely not off the table, and we're really looking to revitalize that whole area because it goes to Green Springs, part of the trail system, right? And if nothing else, COVID has taught us, get outside and make use of your natural space. So yeah, if you anything else you hear, bring it our way. It's still open.
And
So Brady, when will the trail system be complete? The loop, 26, 27 miles.
I would say in the next 2 years, it'll be complete. That missing link will be complete. If you want to honestly know construction and everything, it's all the land has been acquired, design's in place. So construction.
Big money follows these 13 miles and 26 mile walks and runs and marathons.
And then we get Theo off the road and onto the trail.
On that project, we have now in the last year had 2 marathons
marathons that started at Gemini Springs, but because of the length, they've been 13 miles down and 13 miles back. The one last weekend was the Tomoka Marathon, which has previously been run on the Loop on the east side of the county. So we already are building a reputation of being able to start a marathon at Gemini Springs, and as soon as the Loop is complete, it will be a much more interesting trail. It's a very nice trail as it is. You go through some shaded, wooded areas and through the past Green Springs, and it's a very nice trail so far, but when you can do the entire loop around the lake, that will be something special, and we will already have some established marathons that began at Gemini Springs, for example.
And then the last question from, a follow-up, Butch?
Yeah, if you guys do, and this is between Sanford and DeBerry, which I am my wife and I are now a 2-year resident of.
Welcome.
Have been very welcome. And with Deltona, if you do a water taxi type thing connecting the 3 cities, don't let Brady drive the boat.
Thanks, Butch, appreciate that. The last question for Mayor Art Woodruff, and then we'll get this thing closed out. There's a couple more announcements. Yes, sir.
Just an update on the Heritage Park.
Oh, please.
Construction. Anything going on there?
We are expecting, and I'm going to look at my city manager, and he's going to nod his head that I'm getting this right. We are expecting an update from them within the next month as to how they expect to go forward. Is that right? So we should have some news within a month.
Okay.
We are still optimistic, and we also have, there are others that are interested in that project. So in some form, that project will go forward.
Because some would argue it's been kind of a hot market.
Well, and I mentioned to somebody in a conversation this week, that as a catalyst site, it's sort of done its job. Bob Orian's got a project coming in, Townhomes Hotel. We've got the San Leone as new construction, Mark Nation's project. So we've seen a lot of things happening in downtown Sanford, even though that project hasn't happened yet.
All right, any other questions? All right, then we're going to go ahead. I'd again like to thank Kim Fulford and her counterpart there for putting this on. I told her and Brandon Seaforth, I appreciate you all trusting me to fill in at a relative last minute. I had 2 demands. I waived my speaking fee, but we wanted a Bloody Mary bar, which I don't see, and you were supposed to play Eye of the Tiger when we all came up. That's on you, Kim.
I let you down.
Listen, everybody have a wonderful Chamber of Commerce Day. God bless America and God bless you. Take care.